The shadows of the trees grow long as the sun nears the horizon. Ahead you spot a black opening in the sloping ground, a shadowy cave leading to utter darkness. This area stinks of rotting carcasses and death. The fearsome tracks you have been following lead inside.
So this is where the big bad is hanging out? Don't make me laugh. I could beat this guy with one hit point tied behind my back. I'll mop the floor with this... Dave? Where'd you go? Hey, this isn't funny. Come on out. Huh? Oh, ha ha ha. You had your laugh. Now let's get back to the adventure so I can... Oh no.
Naval? I'm sure he's fine, but your players might not be after journeying through today's 5-room dungeon. With All Hallows Eve nearly upon us, it's time to add some horror to your next Dungeons & Dragons adventure with a new location based on John 4's 5-room dungeon model. This particular dungeon borders the Shadowfell, a bleak, desolate plane of existence filled with death and decay. In your own world, the dungeon may exist in a region that has been corrupted by the pervading darkness of that shadowy realm. There are no prerequisites for running this adventure in your campaign other than the party stumbling upon the entrance, although hunting down the beast that resides here could certainly give them reason to venture inside, and may be what led them to this cave in the first place. The boss monster has an estimated challenge rating of 6, so be sure they're up for such a battle. You'll also have an opportunity to tie in a plotline from your own campaign during this adventure if you so choose. But the main goal for this particular dungeon is to send chills through your players' spines as they constantly watch the shadows, wondering if they are ever truly alone. And to have fun, that's also important. Gray trees tower over a dreary landscape, eventually opening up to a dark cave sunk into the earth. The dirt path in front of the cave is littered with small bones and odd animal tracks. While examining the tracks and bones, your party might not notice a smaller tunnel nearby camouflaged by rocks and debris. Exiting this tunnel is a ravenous carrion crawler who makes a surprise attack against any one PC whose passive perception is lower than its stealth check, made with a +1 modifier. It continues to attack until it is slain or can paralyze a PC and drag it back into its tunnel, forcing the rest of the party into close-quarter combat. This is a CR2 encounter. The carrion crawler has taken up residence in this side tunnel, subsisting on the scraps left by the beast who inhabits the main cave. The crawler's tunnel is only 5 feet wide and fairly steep before opening up to a larger single chamber. While the crawler can squeeze into this tunnel, the beast cannot, thus granting the carrion eater some measure of protection. While the crawler's tunnel contains even more bones than the ground outside, there is nothing of value here. Upon entering the main cave, the PCs will notice that it is much wider than the carrion crawler's tunnel, stretching some 10 feet across. The passage is irregular, twisting left and right through the heavy dirt, with roots dangling from the ceiling above. More animal bones are scattered through the length of the cave, but these pale in comparison to what lies ahead. A wall of humanoid skulls blocks further progress through the cave. At the party's approach, black tendrils of shadowy energy ensnare the group and hold them in place while the skull in the center of the wall speaks. It offers a riddle to the party, leading to a skill challenge.
Bodies weaken, might will fail, but knowledge wins, words prevail. A leader's cunning shall avail when warriors age, becoming frail. Your skill in battle soon grows stale, yet wisdom true shall pierce this veil.
The skulls that form this macabre gateway are all from the victims of the beast that makes this cave its home. Murdered by brute force, they were infused with some degree of sentience after death through the latent magic of the Shadowfell, and now despise all forms of physical ability. Although beholden to the monster, they prevent anyone else from entering unless regaled with tales of mind over body. To overcome this skill challenge, the PCs must demonstrate their knowledge, wisdom, and leadership to the Skull Gate so that they might pass. For this particular skill challenge, only intelligence, wisdom, and charisma-based checks may be used. Should a PC tell how they overcame physical force with one of these skills, they receive advantage on the check. The DC of each of these checks is 16. Should a party member fail a check, the black tendril holding them in place blasts them with 1d6 necrotic damage. The party must succeed at 1 skill check per party member before getting 3 failures, otherwise they fail the challenge. After such a failure, the Skull Gate tosses the party aside and bars the way forward. If your PCs attempt to brute force their way through, breaking free of a tendril requires a DC 16 athletics check, but deals 1d6 necrotic damage on the failure. The gate has 60 hit points and an armor class of 13. It is immune to necrotic and poison damage and resistant to cold, but vulnerable to bludgeoning, force, radiant, and thunder damage. If attacked, the Skull Gate can defend itself with its tendrils, making 2 melee attacks per round with a +6 modifier and dealing 2d6 plus 2 necrotic damage per attack. If destroyed, the gate reforms after 24 hours. Whether your group handles this as a skill challenge or combat, it is a CR4 encounter. After passing the Skull Gate, the party comes to a split in the passage. The right path angles up to the surface and smells of fresh air. Sun or starlight can be seen farther down this passage, depending on the time of day. Exploring this section of the cave reveals a collapsed sinkhole leading back out to the woods. Although the last bit of the passage is steep, it is an easy climb due to the thick roots that line the hole. If your party failed the challenge with the Skull Gate, a cursory search of the surrounding woods is enough to discover this secondary entrance. At the bottom of the sinkhole is the dirt-covered body of a traveler, a victim of the collapsed earth above. Depending on the events of your campaign, this may be a chance to reintroduce a lost NPC your party previously met, tying up some loose ends from another adventure. Alternatively, you could add some clue to the person's identity or tie in some other future plot hook in the form of a note or trinket found on the body. In addition to whatever other possessions you decide to include, the fallen traveler carries a broken bow with a quiver containing several arrows. One of these arrows has a curious design, tipped with a crude stone arrowhead marked by some archaic runes. Detect Magic reveals evocation magic on the arrowhead, while a DC 15 Arcana check will identify it as a Thunderstone, borrowed from a previous edition of D&D. This particular item can prove useful during the final battle of this dungeon. Down the left passage is a dead-end tunnel. At the end of this tunnel is a thin layer of magical darkness extending out a few inches from the cave wall. The darkness immediately fades if any natural or magical light source is brought within 5 feet of it, but reappears once the light is moved farther away. Although the PCs may not realize it at first, this darkness is the entrance to the Beast Slayer. Only by extinguishing all light sources, at least temporarily, will the party be able to pass through the darkness to the deadly chamber beyond. Exiting the magical darkness, the party enters another chamber separated from the rest of the cave. Blackness permeates the entire room, and only dark vision or whatever light sources the PCs can quickly reignite will reveal their surroundings. They stand in a natural chamber carved from stone and dirt, the ceiling no more than 10 feet above them, with thin roots piercing through from the ground above. Every step the characters take echoes across the chamber, making it difficult to pinpoint the source of the strange noises they hear. A low growl, a shadowy movement out of the corner of your eye, the scrape of claws against stone, the rattle of an old skull as it rolls across the cave floor, coming to rest against your boot, staring up at you with its empty sockets. And then something strikes. This is the lair of a fell-touched owlbear, a creature of flesh and shadow, tainted by the dark energy that corrupts these lands. It is a terrible foe, one that attacks from the shadows, quickly withdrawing only to strike again from the darkness that strengthens it. The fell-touched owlbear, also called a Shadow Realm owlbear, spawned from a meme on Reddit and was given stats by TK Games. You can find a link to the original post in the description. Essentially, this is a more powerful version of the standard owlbear with shadow-based abilities that make it resistant to many damage types. It is able to use the surrounding darkness to ambush its prey more easily, but can be severely weakened by sunlight. In combat, the fell-touched owlbear uses its Shadow Stealth ability and +7 stealth modifier to attack opponents and immediately hide, blending almost seamlessly into the darkness. While the party searches for the beast, it skirts around the edge of the cave to attack from the opposite side a moment later, repeating this tactic for as long as possible. Once fully engaged, its resistance to all damage but force, psychic, and radiant while in the shadows should keep it alive long enough to push the party to their limits, making this a CR6 encounter. However, if the PCs found the Thunderstone arrow and decide to use it on the owlbear, it deals 1d6 piercing damage plus an additional 1d6 thunder damage on a successful hit, but reduced due to the owlbear's resistance, and explodes with a loud crack whether or not it hits its target. The explosion causes the ceiling of the cave to collapse, forcing all combatants to make a DC 12 dexterity save or take 1d6 bludgeoning damage. If it is still daylight outside, the owlbear succumbs to its sunlight sensitivity trait, giving it disadvantage on all attack rolls and perception checks, as well as losing its resistance to all damage types but necrotic. Defeating the beast will bring an end to its reign of terror on the surrounding woodlands and give the party a chance to explore the rest of its lair. uncovering a couple of surprises in the process. On the floor of this chamber are the remains of several victims, their bones picked clean by the Shadow Beast. But one set of bones stands out from the rest. A forearm with the hand bones still attached clutches a rough stone, but the innate shadow magic of this place has infused it with darkness. Shadows swirl around it, granting magical power to any who hold this primitive wand. The stone and arm bones have absorbed some of the magic of the Shadow Cave, creating a Wand of Darkness, an uncommon magic item that does not require attunement. This item has 7 charges and regains 1d6 plus 1 charges each day at dusk. If the final charge of the wand is expended, roll a d20. On a 1, the wand crumbles into dust and is destroyed. The wielder of this wand can expend a single charge to cast the darkness spell at 2nd level. Casting the spell in this fashion does not require concentration. Multiple instances of the darkness spell cast from the wand can exist at the same time with the expenditure of additional charges. 2 charges for a second casting of the spell, and 3 for a third. One final treasure within this chamber can be found hiding inside the ribcage of a bear carcass. 2 small yellow eyes peer out at the PCs as the creature lets out a faint squawk before emerging. It shakes the dirt from its fur and feathers, then regards the party with an innocent gaze. This baby owlbear is the offspring of the beast they just slayed, not yet corrupted by the dark magics of the cave. The party can befriend the creature with a DC 15 animal handling check, by offering it some food, or through the use of certain spells. If treated properly, the young owlbear could become a valuable companion to the PCs. Initially, the owlbear's stats are comparable to a wolf, but with a speed of 30 feet instead of 40, and without the pack tactics trait. As it grows to juvenile age, it takes the statistics of a brown bear before finally gaining the standard abilities of an owlbear as an adult. How quickly it matures is up to the DM. If the party is unable to care for the creature, they may be able to sell it to a circus or other collector of rare beasts, but only while the owlbear is still an infant. This would earn the party 500 gold pieces. As a more humane alternative, the PCs could leave the owlbear in the care of a circle of druids should they know of such a group, returning later to watch it mature. Should the presence of a young owlbear in your party seem problematic, you can replace it with a standard treasure hoard for the encounter, consisting of leftover gear and loot from those unfortunate travelers who fell victim to the Shadow Beast. Perhaps your players were powerful enough to defeat this monstrosity and take these rewards for themselves. Or perhaps they have joined the dead, and now their treasures will be added to the rest, tempting the next group of adventurers seeking glory. And so, the cycle repeats. That does it for this episode. If your players are ready for a haunted adventure that will chill them to the bone, a delve into the Shadow Cave should do the trick. Until next time, I'm David Watches.
And I'm Nepal Mandia.
And thanks for watching. Special thanks to my longtime friend Bill Batchelor for creating the logo for this channel, and to Dylan Smith for the character art used in this and other videos. I couldn't have done it without them.
For more D&D tips, check out these spooky videos.